Greetings, Summoners. Today's topic will be about the differences between the two most recent SMT tabletop role-playing games, that being Devil City Tokyo 2000X, released in 2005, and Tokyo Conception, released in 2004. Now, as you're probably aware, Tokyo Conception has the official localization by Lionwing Publishing, and I've prepared an image editor on one side because the PDFs are watermarked with order number, first name, last name type of thing. So I don't want to scroll through the PDF in a video. So I'll be taking screenshots where necessary, posting them over here on the right side. On the left side, I have the Devil City Tokyo 2000X PDF. And I will mostly be scrolling through that. But feel free to send this video around to anyone who you see ask, what's the difference between the two systems? I get this question a lot, so I'm trying to make a concise video. But I tend to ramble, so hopefully it won't go too long. So I'm not going to talk too much about stylistic differences. Like, obviously the book on the left has a different style. It still kind of has some of these angular black panels, but they went a little further with some of the layout in 2000X compared to Tokyo Conception, which is neither here nor there. But we can see the density is kind of what I wanted to show side by side. And that you can tell a lot from these images, because on the left you see a class. He's got two and one goes to the other. What does that mean? He's got a level, he's got XP. He has these two XP thresholds. What do those mean? You can tell that there's immediately a lot of differences. Also, this guy's a summoner, so he has a third block for his pixie that he summons. And these are the sample characters. You scan them, print them out, and say, here, this is your character. We're running the game tonight. So you don't have time to make a character. You use one of these. They're already filled out. There's a few things, like the backgrounds and stuff, are meant to still be rolled at the table for 2000X or chosen. So there's a little bit of personalization in there, and that's why that's not listed, but those things do exist in the system. But to talk about some of the more mechanical changes, in Devil City Tokyo, I call them defense for physical and magical defense. In Tokyo Conception, that is the physical and magical resistance stats. So if I zoom in here, this guy's level 10, he has 7 and 6 defense. This guy's level 5, he has 4 and 4. Level 4 demon has 7 and 7, which is higher than this level 10 guy. The reason for that is because the calculation's different. In 2000X, the calculation is the demon's level plus their vitality, and that's it, unless they have a passive that increases it further. For humans, they don't add their level. It's just their vitality for both stats. So down here in the awakened stat block, his vitality is 4, so his defense is 4. If he was actually wearing armor that improved his defense, they would be higher. We can actually see that if we go here. On this one, you see in parentheses, so he has 3 vitality, so his base defense is 3, but he's wearing so he's a successor, which means that he uses mystic fusion to make a special demon weapon. In this case, it's the Garm Gauntlet, and it counts as full body armor, so it also provides some offensive bonuses as well as defensive bonuses based on Garm stats, which is pretty interesting. So this guy's level 5, keep that in mind, and he has much higher resistances than the level 10 Marogare. And this is true for demons. All the demons across the board have way more defense in 2000X. The next formulaic difference, is that the initiative values are calculated slightly differently. In Tokyo Conception, I believe it's just equal to agility. Is that anywhere on here? Looks like it's not even written on the sheet, which is fine. It's whatever. Because I think it's just the agility. In 2000X, it is the average of the character's level and their agility. I'm not sure why they changed that. Probably just to have more influence on level. They really added level to a lot of things, and 2000X has a lot of level scaling as a result, where like if an enemy's too high level, it's very likely that you won't be able to do damage to it at all. There's a few knock-on effects, like unfortunately Tokido-san is a little short-sighted when it comes to modifying some of his designs, because there's a lot of things copy-pasted from Tokyo Conception into this system, and then other systemic changes were made that have knock-on effects. So if a demon is strong or resists ice, and you hit them with an ice attack, because the defense is so much higher in 2000X, it's very likely that they'll actually just take 0 damage, effectively elevating that to like a null status, right? Which is a little questionable. There's homebrews out there to sort that quirkiness out, but defense values are much higher. You may also notice here in this middle section, it's different than on this section. Here they have physical power, and then they have like the save TN, dodge TN, all that stuff. But here we have melee power, spell power, or magical power, and then ranged power, which is used for ranged attacks. If you're shooting with gun, doing a bow, for needle-based attacks like what's it called, like arid needle, stun needle, those kind of things that demons typically have. This isn't actually calculated differently, but it's now present because it's used more than just a sentence describing it in Tokyo Conception, and that's an exaggeration. I'm sure they talk about it a little more than that, but the data point is listed on the character sheet. Let's see. So another important thing, and this might make more sense if I go to a different character. Here's an outsider. She transforms into the unicorn. Gunslinger. I'm trying to find the shield work. Yeah, maybe not. So here, for the purposes of the sample character, they have all of the major actions they can take. They can make an unarmed attack. They can take the assist or aid action. Then they have weapons. So this guy's got 3 weapons. But then he has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 abilities. Okay. I was wondering if any of the sample characters had more than 8 skills. In Tokyo Conception, there's a hard 8 skill limit, and you have to forget skills to learn new skills. In 2000X, there is no skill limit whatsoever, unless one is specifically mentioned, such as, you can't learn this skill multiple times, or for the perfect Zoma in the Tokyo Millennium Supplement, that specific creature, not the perfect Zoma, but just a normal Zoma, actually. The normal Zomas have an 8 skill limit. For whatever reason. But typical player characters have no imposed limit. Boss demons have no imposed limits. And certain demons in the back of the book, which I'll get to right now, actually, just fly down there. Yeah, I mean, these are fine. Root, Mizuki. Certain demons, like, they only have entries for 8. Why is it doing that? Stop. Stop scrolling. There we go. So they only have entries for 1, 2, 3, 4, yeah, 8. But the boss only demons, I think they have 10 or 12 skill slots, and they're typically filled up. And then in the Makai Sephiroth supplement, they have like super bosses that have like dual track action patterns, which is pretty crazy. Let's see. Let me grab a stat block from Tokyo Conception. It might be better if I were to grab the same kind of demon, but whatever. That's besides the point. So here we can see that the actual blocks themselves are smaller because they don't include a picture. That's fine. The thing at the top is actually the same, like the same layout there. It's pretty cool. But the big differences is that in X we have keywords and a no good word, which is what NG stands for. And these play into the negotiation system of X, which is different. And it has the action pattern, which is cool because you roll a d10 and you can randomize which action the demon takes. And every demon has an action pattern, which is really cool if you just want to. I mean, it's really good for solo play. I have a few people saying that they really enjoy that about the system because it just takes some of the pressure off of like choosing what they do. And like some people have mentioned in discussions about Tokyo Conception, like what would stop me from having, this demon use their best attack until they die. For bosses, that's probably okay in some cases. But for fodder demons or minion demons, you may not want them to take the best action every time. And like, how do you decide? And you're thinking, if you're pre-planning this sort of action pattern, so whatever, this kind of alleviates some of that and adds a little bit of randomness and matches the games. It's cool. You may also notice right here there is a boss field for the HP and MP. You can instantly convert any demon into a boss. Down here they have different XP values for the bosses. Now I will say in X, the lion share of XP comes from defeating the session's boss, and the game, much like Tokyo Conception, is kind of focused on episodic Monster of the Week style, incremental, this is the boss, he's the one behind everything, defeat him, beat the session type of deal. More so in X maybe than Tokyo Conception. There's different ways. Now that XP value is actually supposed to be split among the party, unlike Tokyo Conception, where it is applied across the board. So that is a small difference in why the boss XP is so high. But because the individual demon XP is also supposed to be split, that tends to fall really behind. Like a very low level demon, I think if I just scroll up here, level 15 demon, he's giving 60 XP, and the level 5 characters had 100 to start with. So if you have a normal group of 4, you split that 4 ways, now everyone's getting 15 XP. It's not a lot, but you can choose not to split it for very fast leveling. Moving on. So the action pattern's important, the keywords are important, but what X lacks, TC, it has a little star for the favored stat. It has 8 skill limit. It has the evolve field. So lots of demons evolve, like pixie to high pixie, that type of thing. And then right here, the level learned. So this demon only has the first 3 skills, I suppose, until they level up a bunch of times. And so the GM would have to level the demon up, I guess, to access those skills. One moment. Let's see. Yeah, so that's one difference. The level learned, evolve field. Also the inherent traits. So X simplified a lot of those features intentionally. They decided to just say that when you fuse 2 demons together, the inherent traits don't matter. Whatever the resulting form is, you can just hand wave it via GM Fiat, or if a player is playing a demon PC, they want to describe, oh, my Jack Frost, has wings because they're fused with an angel, and I can use wing flap. I know angel doesn't have wing flap, but that's an example. You can inherit whatever you want. You can inherit breath skills, weapon skills, blah, blah, blah. Let's see. In X, there's the drop item, but also a rare item, where TC only has drop item. They removed fate points from standard enemies. Bosses are also not supposed to have or use fate points. This does mean that demons, like they have the talk target number written here, or negotiate. Is that actually written on these guys anywhere? No. So they moved some of the data points around and they filled them out with other sort of superfluous information. So most demons that you converse with, they don't make negotiation checks if you're negotiating with them. The player makes those checks. Although if you summon a demon, maybe it's important you can have them negotiate on your behalf. They don't get fate points though, which does make luck a pretty stinky stat for demons in X. Not that it's amazing for demons in Tokyo Conception either, just because luck is a little funny that way. Let's see. Next on the thing, so I've talked about this. Aha, so there's new types of actions. There's all the same bad status or ailments as you know. Let's get to the, that's fusion. So they have a different fusion chart. The fusion rules at their core are the same, but the options available are increased. So there's triple fusion, double fusion. You can ignore double confusion because it's just a human PC turning into a demon, and there's actually nothing. They write a lot about it, but it's just normal fusion. Dark fusion with rejection and cannibalization. Absorbing slimes, element fusion, and ranking up and down. So yeah, demon appearance and skills. This is the part I was saying where they remove the inherent traits. Oh yeah, they have the fusion ID. You may have seen it in the previous stat block. They explain what it is and why it's written the way it's written, but I don't actually believe it's usable. You have to make modifications to the fuse ID. You could easily make like a fusion calculator using just the fuse ID, but you could just as easily do the same but with, transposing the demon's race and level and ignoring the IDs, because I don't think sorting them, you would have to modify them to make the fusion calculator work, which I've done. It's fine. I just don't know why they did it that way. So yeah, I mean, fusion table, they span 2-page spread. There's a triple fusion table, 1 and 2. Cooldown is basically the same. Here we go, data. So new skills, lots and lots and lots of skills. Big page on explaining skills. You'll notice here that they have like a broad category. So these are all melee attacks. And then they have subcategories, but they all kind of scale off of melee power. Fire breath does fire damage, but it's still scaling off of strength, melee power. But here we get to weapon skills, and in Tokyo Conception, you do not add a weapon's potency to damage. The potency only affects basic attacks, which is exactly how the video games work. All of the video games, in fact. For 2000X, however, you do add your weapon's power to skill power on top of your melee power, which means that weapon users, and conversely gun users, even though they don't add level to range power, so they still have that demerit going for them, but the guns do have pretty high damage, so it's not all bad. I don't think it's quite enough to offset the free automatic scaling of weapons, but the defense, as I said earlier, was greatly increased. The damage of weapons in particular has been greatly increased as well, which kind of lets you blow past the defense in some cases. But skill mods always help there. So, these plus 25s, plus 12s, all that stuff is quite strong. Range attacks, so we have more firearm type weapons. There may not seem like a lot here, but I'll get to the items in a minute. So there's also a lot more skills in this one. What I wanted to show off, however, is this section. So there are X and TC both have actions. You have one action per turn. In X, however, they added more categories of skills. Minor skills can be used one time on your turn, but don't take your action. So summoning a demon, you can do that with a minor action. Transforming into a demon, minor action. There are also counter skills. These work differently. They're not passives anymore. You trigger them instead of dodging. Sometimes they will also have the effect of dodging, which means you don't take damage, but they're chosen in place of dodging rather than being passive. Instant skills are like interrupt or reactions. They interrupt someone else's turn when it's not your turn. So the cover skill, for example, the endure skill, which I believe endure was one per session in Tokyo Conception, but then they made an errata to change it to one per battle, and then in X they made it back to one per session, which is what the open square is. It's like a checkbox that's not checked, and so when you use it on your character sheet, you would draw a checkbox, and you can't use that one this session anymore. There's a few negotiation skills, so they removed the, like this one, loan, where it's like a speech skill or whatever, or it's a talk skill. It requires the ability to speak, right? They removed those types where they have specific triggers and benefits and people that they offend, and these ones you just get like change a conversation check with an NPC. Encounter rate aid basically just means up to the party level to a critical. So one per session use, you can intimidate someone if they're under your level. The encounter rate is based on, it's like a GM facing tool. It's basically in reference to the gate power, which both systems have gate power. I don't know why they added encounter rates and gate powers instead of, well, I like gate power, but the encounter rating thing is smoke and mirrors. It just means level. But for the purposes of keeping things as consistent as possible, I translate them as is, even if it's a little roundabout. Battle skills, these happen at the beginning or end of battle, so these are like your victory cry type things. So there's more types of skills. Info gathering, so these are sort of related to negotiation, but these are basically, so info gathering skills and general skills are skills that you can use outside of combat. That's basically the distinction here, is that they take too much time, or they imply that you play out a scene gathering information. Some of them I don't really get, like mapper, librarian, computer user are kind of like, they only cost 8 MP, which for low levels is a lot, but if you're high level, you know, and let's say you have a comp and it's like, oh, can I just spend MP into my comp and then like go visit the recovery shrine and get all my MP back? Like, I don't know. It's a little strange. I don't think they thought it out too far. So the next thing that's different is that this game, Air X, has a focus on the modern day and human PCs. So as a result, there's a lot of item data. Way, way, way more. In Tokyo Conception, all of the human items, they fit on like part of one page. In this system, it spans. Let's see if I'm able to deduce. So here we are on page 96, and we'll go to like the last page. Oh, Mystic Change. So it's over 20 pages worth of item data. So if you want items, this is the system for you. But you'll notice here that, you know, they have all these stats. They have hit, they have power, they have like a gender requirement, which you can ignore. They have an alignment requirement, which is usually blank. They have a vitality requirement. So if you're neglecting vitality, you will not be able to use the strongest equipment, which is an interesting touch. That is unique to the system, I believe. And then each individual item has an item skill. Not all of them. Like this attack knife, it's a pretty cheap knife. You can buy it for 20 Maka and whatever. But some of them have passive skills. This gives extra defense. Some of them have active skills, like this reach attack one. It lets you do a melee attack at or technically it's not a penalty, it's just the weapon's power has a penalty. This is an action. So this isn't a passive that lets you, attack from far away because it's a polearm. You would take the reach attack action as if it were a skill and use it. And that's kind of how the firearms work. Everyone wants to see the firearms, right? So we have like full auto, which is in Tokyo Conception. On just the MP5, which we can go look at the MP5. Here it is, has full auto. It targets all targets, consumes 10 bullets. It may even have, I think that's actually the same power. I could be wrong. I don't feel like going and checking, but yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you've got bazookas, you've got sniper rifles. They don't really do a good job of differentiating these, especially in the video games where some of them have multi-hit on a single target. They did not translate that at all to the system, which I think is a little bit of a shame because you get I don't know. It seems like there's certain abilities where like the mini-me has 42 power and 100 bullets, and then this anti-tank rifle, it does 66 power, 1 bullet. And you might think 24 damage difference, but having to spend a turn reloading every round is going to be every other round. That's a pretty big deal. I mean, the sniper rifle is a third the price too, so I mean there's lots of factors to consider, but it's not everything is completely balanced in this system. And that's true in Tokyo Conception as well. But because there's more data, more items, more demons, more everything, there's more imbalances at the edges. And so that kind of sums up the main differences. Um, you could think of Tokyo Conception as like a basic edition and SMTX as an advanced edition. Uh, Fiends are not in the core book, but they are in Makai Sephiroth, and I have 3 supplements translated already. So there's, you can play half demon PCs. There's all kinds of crazy classes that are unique to Tokyo Conception, like Cyborg and Augmented Human, which are basically the protagonist. There's special classes that are just for demon PCs. And every supplement adds more demons, more items, more skills, more everything. New systems. So there's like chase rules in one. There's a mass combat system coming up in one of the supplements when I get to it. So X was definitely the more supported system. Because like I said, Tokyo Conception, that's 2004. They got a supplement, got a replay. Then White Vortex. I mean, some people call it a supplement. It's a booklet, a small adventure module that only a few people ever got. So can't really count it as a support because it was a lottery. X, 1 year later, X comes out, and then it's supported for about 6 years until 2011 was the very last replay and errata update and stuff like that. But yeah, there's a setting difference, and I'm just talking about everything that X can do instead. What is... Yeah, rules section. So we'll go to scene background music. So this is a weird system that I don't think is... I need to read some of the other replay books to see if these actually come into play. The scene BGM and the scene affinities, I don't really get them. These all sort of imply, like, you would use them as a way to be like, oh, this is how we can, it's like negotiate here. Low danger, non-hostile targets. So they help you map out like encounters, so to speak. So you'd be like, oh, here's an encounter, and you can describe it as the background music changing to the, chase music, and it's like, oh, we need to run away. So you put like a hard enemy or, time bomb, disaster, countless weak demons. Talking about like a horde, a swarm of weaker demons that would just wear you down, even if you're able to kill lots of them. Recommended action: run away. If you are successful, you get XP. And even if you fight, you do not gain XP. So if you fight some of the countless weak demons, but there's a gate that they're streaming from and the legions of hell are pouring out, unless you close the gate with that combat or kill every demon that's coming through the gate, you're not going to get combat XP. So they're a little strange because they sort of betray the expectations, where like if you have a combat and you resolve the combat, usually you get XP, and you would have to do a lot of upfront explaining about the BGM system to your players so that they don't feel like rug pulled in a situation like that. The scene affinities are very strange. Like, here's lead rain situation. There's bullets flying everywhere. Effect: you take gun damage. These only happen when one person rolls an automatic failure or a fumble. So you could set a scene affinity to thunderstorm or ocean or whatever. And then if nobody rolls a fumble or auto fails a roll, then it just doesn't do anything. Like, it helps you, describe thematically what's going on in the combat or what's going on in the scene. So like if you fumble in a negotiation check outside of combat, do you get struck by lightning? Technically, maybe. They're a little weird, but they exist. And so, I mean, that's a unique feature. Combat. So in X, Tokyo Conception, they have optional rules for grid-based combat. They're, in my opinion, a complete afterthought and have no depth to them whatsoever. There's no point in using them. And so otherwise, you just have everyone can attack everyone, and your attacks either hit one person or they hit everybody. In X, there's a front row, back row. So you have melee skills can only be used in the front row on front row targets. You can there's certain attacks that affect one row of enemies, and there's certain attacks that affect all enemies. This is moving between to the front row, back row is an action, which is a little steep in my opinion, but there's a little bit more depth to it. And the melee guys have to stand up front. And there's like a minimum number of people that have to be up front, that kind of deal. So the assist and aid action, I did want to mention, I want to go back and actually retranslate that, because now I wonder if Tokyo Conception made a rules change or if there's actually a difference between the two systems. In X, it works the same way. Like you make a luck check. If you succeed, the target gets plus 20% to a specific action. That part is the same. But in Tokyo Conception, it says that the buff stays in effect until that specific action is taken. Whereas in X, if you don't take the action, then the buff is wasted. So you have to follow it up right away, basically. I don't know if that was intentional. I don't know if the Lying Wing guys made a rules change there, because they have changed rules. As far as I'm aware, that is mostly informed by discussion with Tokita-san himself when asking for clarifications, and they've incorporated some of the FAQ stuff and errata where possible. Actually, I don't think that the Lying Wing guys were aware of the FAQ. At least not the people I've talked to, but that's neither here nor there. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, speaking of the FAQ, that magic damage in Tokyo Conception applies specifically to the elemental types, meaning fire, ice, elect, and force. In X, it's all non-physical, excluding Almighty, because Almighty is never affected by affinities. Yeah, so you see here there's reactions. The instant skills how dodging works, so damage, we see what gets added to everything. So a weapon attack is your power dice plus your melee, then the weapon's power, and a skill, base melee, power, weapon power, and skill power. So this kind of clears it up. I was wondering for a while, like, oh wow, that's really interesting. Maybe I read the rules wrong, and I went back to this table and I was like, oh no, they definitely spelled it out here in very specific detail. A lot of the affinity and bad status is copy pasted from Tokyo Conception. There's a new one called Happy, which is it's the lowest level effect, and it's basically just a shitty stun. You can still dodge, and you can auto recover, or you can recover yourself with vitality check. So escape rules, surprise checks, dark zones, back attacks, ambush. I don't want to just go through the whole book here because I've already run this too long, but hopefully the beginning part of the video answers the question about some of the major differences in terms of, which system should I go for, and can I convert something from this system to the other? The answer is yes, but you'll need to put in the work to convert it. You can't just use it out the gate because the defense values need to be altered. And a lot of the skills in X don't exist in Tokyo Conception. Most of everything in Tokyo Conception does exist in X in some form. It may not exist in the core rulebook, but it is added somewhere. Anyways, until next time, thank you for watching.